I'd like to call our April 3rd, 2025 Roanoke County School Board work session to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Greenway?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Linden?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Johnny? Mr. Hudson?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Clemens?
Yes, ma'am. Item 2.01, major construction project updates. Mr. Todd Kagels, Mr. Wes Mitchell, and Mr. Kamal Khalil.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Soltis, we have with us, as usual, Wes Mitchell from Skanska and Kamal Khalil from Skanska to give us updates on our major construction projects.
And thanks again for having us. I'll start off with the CTE project. A ton of progress this month. If you've been by there, it's very apparent. Mass grading still continues. That'll be going on for a while. However, all backfill and compaction is complete in Area C, so we're no longer taking material and putting it into the building pad. All the material, rock crushing operations, that's basically going nonstop. All that material is being used as fill for the lower slope now. It's all off the pad, so you'll see that slope start to take shape a little bit quicker now that all operations are off the pad. Site-wise anyway. Those operations have moved to foundation construction, which is, as far as the footings, all of those have been poured 100%, including the canopy piers on the outside. And then, so we've moved into our low foundation walls. So that's your CMU masonry walls. 50% about complete in Area B. They pulled off, they got pretty far ahead of our concrete guys, so they pulled off and focused on our bearing walls in Area D, which we'll get to here in a second. With going along with that, with our foundation walls, is our underground MEP. So all your plumbing and electrical service to the building that is under the slab. Very hot and heavy in Area B right now, a ton of that. So storm, sanitary, and then electrical distribution. They're all getting all that laid out in preparation for slab pours. So Area D slab was poured at the beginning of the month, moved into Area A. There was still a little bit of work to do with underground. That was complete, and Area A pad was actually complete earlier this week. We have a pour scheduled for Monday morning, so half of that, it will all be complete next week, Monday and Tuesday, 2 big pours, weather permitting. Area D, where that slab was poured earlier in the month, they went straight into our CMU bearing walls, so all your vertical walls that are supporting any of the structure, and those are going up. So if you go over there, you'll see 18-foot walls and hallways and rooms and all that stuff. You can really see the building start to take shape. And we've got a ton of pictures that will kind of show you what it looks like. But as far as site activities, that's it. It's a lot going on. No real new activities. We're just following that path D, A, B, and C around the building.
Oh, that's an awesome picture.
And this is some of the drone footage that Branch has been taking periodically, about once a month. They'll get out there when the airport lets us and take some drone footage. This is from very early in the month, so you can see Area D over here on the right corner. That's that pad, and you can see the walls starting to come up. They're a lot further along, but if you pause it here, you can, well, if it'll let you.
Yeah, give me 1 second. Get there.
You can see the lines here. That's where all your walls are going to go up. Those are all your footings, so you can kind of see the rooms and how they are going to take shape. And then you can see the slope here on the side where your parking lot's going to come up and in. And the next picture will show you what that'll look like.
And Wes, so this is Area D.
Yes, sir.
That's already poured, and then this is Area A that's going to be poured next week.
Yep, Monday and Tuesday next week, weather permitting, that'll be poured. And then, so all our foundation walls in Area B, which is about half of the next more than half of the next section are done. So it's all coordinated well and moving along nicely.
So one of the things I wanted you guys to see was if you look right here, there's a workman right in that location. That gives you an idea of the scale of the building. If you think of what a long walk that is all the way down that hallway and out the other end of the building, that gives you an idea of the scale of the building. And to see this photograph, which takes the rendering and puts it right here where the pad is now. Remember, that's what it's actually going to look like when all's said and done.
With that being said, Area A is in the front.
This is Area A right
Are
here.
you gonna have to bring in a lot of dirt? I mean, it looks like to me the grade around there.
No, so it's hard to tell from that, from any overhead, but there's still a lot of material that has
See what
to
I
be
mean?
crushed.
That just looks like.
You doing it for parking and so forth?
Yeah.
Yeah, so about halfway up, you can kind of see. This picture does not do it justice. Some of these stones are absolutely huge, and about halfway up, all that's still got to get stripped and put back in. There's a huge mound of dirt over in the back left corner too, and there what Todd was just showing you. All that, some of that's still 15, 20 feet higher than the building pad, and it's going to come down to level. All that there, and it's going to get pushed. There, we may have to bring in some, but
Just look like on this
if
front left
we're
corner.
thinking there may be a surplus of material actually.
Okay.
That's all said and done.
That's good because it looks from that picture it looked like it'd be a lot.
And that's some of the slope that they've already done. That's
Sorry.
it's coming along. So these are just showing your footings, and this is looking back all the way to the end of the building. You can see the mound there. That's dirt right on the edge of the building pad. So that kind of gives you an idea of the distance from C to the end of A. And then obviously we go back north as well. There's some plumbing there that you can see. This is our first pour. It's 4 a.m. in the morning. They get an early start, so they have time to finish the concrete and let it all cure, and that's the end result before our walls started going up. And this is where we're at now. You can see the yellow there. That's the vapor barrier for the area A pad that we're going to pour, and then into D. We're even further along than this now with the walls going up, but you can see this will be the corridor walking down area D, building trades on your left and criminal justice on your right. Any questions on CTE? Come on.
Okay, on the schools, they came a long way. I'm gonna condense it into phase 1A and 1B. They turned over 1A last week, and the school moved into the rooms and everything is fine. On the punch list, we found a few items. We'll take care of that. But other than that, everything is done on phase 1A. The bathrooms are done, the classrooms are done, flooring, plumbing, everything is done, even the doors. So now we jump to the demolition, and they're doing a good job. They're going fast on both schools. And that's in a nutshell, that's what it is. Now we're starting 1B, and we're gonna go back to the same thing we did in phase 1A, demo, and then come back and do the rest. The block wall, the flooring, the ceiling, it's all repetitive work, but they've done a good work, to be honest with you, and they're moving along really good. That's on Condiv, that's the water line and the fire hydrant that they installed over the spring break.
So we had our guys on site, Brian Dodson and Mike Kaufman, take pictures now that 1A has been turned over to us. So they're fully occupied and in use. And what I wanted you guys to see here in the pictures is, our goal is for it to be indistinguishable from new, and it really is. If you go over there and walk that section of the building, you can't tell that you're not in a brand new building. You see all the furniture's in, all the casework is in. Like I said, it's just beautiful. If you look at the hallway there on the right, it looks fantastic. They really have done a nice job. These are the new restrooms. So we took possession of 8 classrooms at both schools and 2 sets of bathrooms, so 4 restrooms total. This is over at W.E. Cundiff. This pad right here is the new kitchen. That's this area to the right here in this photograph. This is the new cafeteria where you already have the walls up, and then the connecting corridor.
This pad was poured this morning.
Yeah, so this one that is not poured right here in this photo is poured today. And then what I wanted you to see here was they're applying topsoil, and so when you apply topsoil, you know you're down to the final grade. So when you go around to the backside there, that's the kitchen here to the left, and that the banking and grade work there is at final grade now.
That's when Tim showed up to the site. You asked about this, and that's the final product.
Yeah, nice. And I went by yesterday, and it's looking.
They came along.
It's
really
amazing.
good.
There's a lot of work that's
That's the steel work. That's the framing and the ceiling. Now it's already covered. Some of it is already covered, and over here on Glen Cove also it's already covered.
Yeah, these are the admin areas, nurse's office, those sorts of things. That's the connecting corridor there, and then Glen Cove.
In Glen Cove, if you're going down Cove Road, you'll see this is done. All the storm drain stuff is done. This is an old picture. I cheated. Now it's probably got the top on. All the masonry is done, and this is cleaned up a little bit.
Yeah, it's in a very similar state to what we have over at WE kind of. These are interior pictures that Mr. Kaufman, our guy down there, sent us. You see the new bathrooms. This design concept I would have loved when I was in the middle school, because it makes it easy to supervise that area of the restrooms from the hallways. You go in, then you turn left and right to go back to the girls' side of the restroom and the boys' side of the restroom, but the sinks are exposed to the hallway. So that's a relatively new design concept for us. There's the new restrooms, the new classrooms. Again, everything's done over there except punch list stuff that Kamal and Mike are working on. Again, just other shots from the classrooms. Any questions on the elementary schools?
It looks really good, honestly.
Yeah.
It really does.
We're super happy with our relationship with Branch and the work that they've done to this point. I did want to share this with you also. So this is the area that we just looked at, the eight classrooms, is this section right here, 1A, that we just took possession of. There's the bathrooms and the 8 classrooms. The mirror image of that is the next one, which is, if I can use the mouse, is right there. And that is scheduled to be ready to go by the start of next school year. So that's where they've started right now. So by the time the kids come back after the summer, that area should be ready to go. And correct me if I'm wrong, Kamal, but 2A should be ready to go also. Ignore these dates over here on the right. This was an easier diagram to use, but it was an old document, so those dates are not correct, but the dates that I'm telling you are correct. So we're going to take over 1B and 2A, and then go back to area 1 here, which consists of all of the admin areas, the connecting corridor, the kitchen, the cafeteria, and that back corridor, and that should be done in early fall. So shortly into the school year, you can see we ought to have possession of a large portion of that building.
How many phases are there?
Oh, quite a bit.
So it's not
Well,
all three,
if
but it's
you
more than three.
just in terms of which ones they gave nomenclature to, there's 1A, 1B, 2A, 2A, 2F, 2B, 3A, 3B, so 8 phases.
Okay.
But some of those are concurrent, so they don't all just go, in
For some
order.
reason, I thought there were 3. That's why I was.
They probably
many more than
combined them, but
I was wondering how that comes together so we get the center part. But I noticed when I was over there yesterday, and of course they can't work on the cafeteria, right? Because we got to have the cafeteria. But I was thinking that whole phase down there, or whatever that's called in the bottom, none of that's going to have been touched.
So
right
that
here at Glen Cove.
No.
kind of that will be 3A, and that part of the building. That's what's highlighted here on the map right there, and that's scheduled for May of 2026.
Okay.
So that's
That's
one of the last phases.
I got you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Makes sense.
1B is gonna be shorter because it's lessons learned. And 1A took a little bit longer. They had a few issues. You know what I mean?
Yep. Learn from that. Yep.
Any other questions on the elementary schools? Okay, thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Looks good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 2.02, minor construction and maintenance projects, Mr. Todd Kegels.
I didn't want you all to think that our major construction projects were the only things we had going on. We got a lot of stuff going on in addition to those. So I just wanted to share just a few of them that I picked out that we worked on over, they represent significant investments, and we worked on them over spring break. Cave Spring High School is one. That's about $250,000 worth of air conditioning work, replacing the one of the two main gym units. This one will do dehumidification, which was important because they had problems with the gym floor, constantly warping and cupping. We think we've got it under control with some large temporary dehumidifiers that we've added. But hopefully we can remove those. They're really loud. Hopefully we can remove those now that this new unit's in place. It's operational. It's not, the control work isn't finished on it, but it will be finished soon. Most of that was done over spring break.
It's Todd, one question related to that, and we may have already answered this, but was that not part of our construction? These units?
Part of Cave Spring High School's construction? No, it wasn't. Those were Now, that was before my time, but my understanding is those were value engineered out, so they were kept. One of the two that was left in place failed and was almost going to be as expensive to fix it as it was to replace it. So we replaced it with this one, and we gained dehumidification capability. So it was, it was a good
And
investment.
I wish
for us.
we'd have done that with the project. I mean,
Yeah.
that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. Now, I will say with Bird, if you recall, you all approved additional funding when we got to the end to go back and do some of the things that were going to be left that weren't 100% with the HVAC system, and it is now. We did
Well, that
go
makes
back
sense,
and,
yeah.
And you all provided additional funding for that, but we did go back and do all the things that they felt like needed to be done. But that was not done here at Cave Spring.
My reasoning is because you take it from major capital to minor capital.
Yeah, and that's not to say that a lot of stuff was left out like that at Cave Spring. It wasn't.
Right.
Most of the HVAC system is brand new, but those two gym units were left in place.
Are we leaving anything out at either Glen Cove or Cundiff as far as air conditioning goes?
No, the cooling towers are both being replaced. They'll be brand new, and the heat pumps had been purchased with ESSER money just prior to the start of construction. So we actually hadn't installed them at one of the schools. The other school we had installed it, but they're just reusing the brand new heat pumps. They're only about a year old. So no, we feel good about the mechanical work that's being done at Glen Cove and W.E. Cundiff. This photograph is Glenver Elementary School. Again, this is so this would have been about $250,000 investment, except that our guys did all the installation work on this, and so this is about $175,000. They replaced 3 of the rooftop units over there, and again, that was a job that was completed over spring break. So they should be in real good shape out there. This is Fort Lewis Elementary School, and I just kind of wanted to give you an idea of the condition that existed and it, to some extent may still exist in different locations, just due to the age of the building. So what happened in the main hall up there was they found some soft spots in the floor. And so we started investigating it, and we found a significant amount of, no active termites, but a significant amount of termite damage and rot in the floors up there. So our guys did all the work. That's one of our carpenters there, John Ashby, and they reframed the whole thing. They cut it all out. They reframed the whole thing. New subfloor, new tile work over here on the right, and old tile work at the beginning. New tile work as you go further down the hallway. I told them they're just like Surf Pro. You can't ever tell that it happened. So we took care of that over spring break as well, and that's all I have. Do you have any questions?
I just like to say, Todd, that was a great job. I saw that this morning.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, didn't they do a great job?
You can't tell that anything was ever done.
Yeah,
Looks great.
John Ashby and Chris Noble did that, and they're excellent carpenters, and did fantastic work for sure.
Let those guys know that we say thank you, because
I
that's
sure
an
will.
awesome job.
Sure will, appreciate it.
I think sometimes they're the unsung heroes.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Item 2.03, Kinetic fundraiser report, Mr. Jason Sir, Mr. Carl York, Ms. Karen Cox, Ms. Janelle Johnson, Mr. Kevin Williamson.
I'm going to borrow this. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Nicely, Dr. Soltis. We're pleased to have Kinetic with us today, members of the team that we've been working with over the past months on the Creating Excellence campaign. And look forward to their presentation today. Just a little background, we started work with them last year, and really the impetus behind that was Carl and I were working together and quickly came to the realization that we were taking a wild stab in the dark when it came to fundraising. We thought, let's go raise some money, and we felt like a more formal understanding was necessary for us to do an adequate job. We did a little bit of investigating about who others had used, et cetera, and we ended up settling on getting permission from you all to settle on Kinetic, and we've been working with them ever since. Without further ado, I'm going to let Carl do a little bit more background. I don't know if you need the, do we need to put the,
It's
we're
all
fine?
right, I'll
Okay.
just talk.
Okay.
So I really appreciate everybody's time tonight. We really enjoyed working with Kinetic. Like Jason said, when we started out with this, we thought we knew a little bit, but once we got into it, we understood that probably we would be better served if we brought some professionals in with us to really help us get all we could get as we raise money. And so these guys have done a great job, and they've got a feasibility study they want to share with you tonight. I know you guys have had some questions about what we've been working on and what we've been doing, and I'm really proud of the work that they've done. But let me introduce them. We have Karen Cox, President, Janelle Johnson, Chief Growth Officer, and Kevin Williamson, who's the Senior Vice President. And so if you'll give them some time, we'd love for you to do that. Thank you.
Before we do that, Carl, do you
Yeah.
mind just reminding everybody, what the focus of this fundraising effort is versus, we got the construction costs paid for, we've got, of course, all the equipment.
Right.
Just provide a real quick context in terms of what the focus of this is going to be in terms of this campaign.
Yeah, so those are some of the questions. I've been out meeting with a lot of businesses and talking to a lot of different people, and sometimes we'll get questions. Well, we thought all this was paid for. We thought everything was taken care of, and you guys have done a great job with your vision and getting the money for the build, the land, the equipment to start out with, and really moving over the equipment that's already at Burton. But we knew right away there's no better time to develop long-lasting relationships moving forward with companies than building a new school. And we know that as soon as we open the doors, that technology is going to take us further. We're going to want to add programs. We're going to want to add to it right away. And we thought this would be a great time to build onto the relationships we already have, and then add some more in the community with fundraising. It's a perfect storm right now for them. They have a lot of these companies have older, experienced workers, but they don't have a lot of new young blood coming in, and they're really interested in our kids and our CTE program and connecting with us and building a relationship going forward. So it's the perfect time, but we wanted to go ahead and set this up so that we could fundraise and get ahead of this. And part of what we'd like to do is build an endowment where we can use that for some scholarships for these kids. We want to make sure that our kids have the tools that they need, have the equipment that they need. We want to give them a leg up right when they come out of school that ensures success. So that was our thinking around this, and there's no better time than when you're building a new school.
And I'll just add that funding that we're looking for is what we like saying is that for that margin of excellence that we want this RCCTC to be known for. We want it to be a shining beacon on that hill. We want it to perpetually, not just when it opens, it will be a shining beacon at that moment, but we know quickly it's going to have turnover. We're going to have new programs. We're going to have equipment that we're going to need to be looking at. We want to maintain that margin of excellence and have that margin to work with. So,
Yeah, great.
Sure. So, yeah, well, first of all, thank you for your confidence in us and for allowing us to do this work for you. It's been great to work with both of you on this, and you had already really laid some important groundwork, so we just took it from there. And our job and the contract that we had with you, of course, was for a feasibility study to develop a plan for you for moving forward. We know we wanted to raise a lot more money and do a major effort, but in this contract arrangement, we were testing the idea of how much money we could raise and developing a really solid plan for raising that money for moving forward. So through our conversations, we developed a test case document. We'll talk about that later, but to test the idea of a campaign called Partnering for Excellence to raise $5.55 million. And throughout this arrangement, we tested the idea of that. So this campaign and the recommendations were designed, that we'll talk about here, were designed to not just raise that money, but to increase your visibility at the same time and build a broad base of support for ongoing funding well into the future as you develop those relationships. So let me talk, this is what I just said, and we're going to talk about the key findings right now of our feasibility study, executive summary here. But our contract deliverables, let me go through this for you real quick. This is what we were engaged to do. That's a campaign readiness review. We'll talk about each of these, a case statement development, philanthropic scan, looking at the philanthropy available to you, campaign assessment, the interviews and surveys, and then the foundation and corporate and foundation research, and then this report and presentation. So we began this with the campaign readiness review. We started August 8th, and our internal assessment lasted over 3 days, and then we did our external assessment. And that was personal interviews. We spent some time identifying people that we wanted to talk to that could tell us if a campaign for these purposes could be successful and lend their insight. So we could use that data to help us develop a report and a plan. So we connected with 29 current and prospective donors through that process. So the internal assessment, I mean, usually it's a lot more, it would be a lot more lengthy on the internal side because we'll be looking at your fundraising history, your donor database, all of the communications that we've been doing to date. And of course, you didn't have that. We're starting out with a major campaign. And so we really talked about your story, the history of the Burton Center, the need, and then we identified the goals of the campaign to be tested. And when I talk about campaign, we had talked about how do we raise a lot of money. And when we talk about a major gift campaign, that's really a fundraising strategy with a beginning and an end, and it creates an urgent and compelling need. And like you said, the new building creates this great environment to raise this money. So, and then we identified with the team, when I say we, I mean us, identified the prospective donors and conducted research on those as well. This is a case statement. I think many of you saw this. These are just 2 pages of the case statement, but it'll give you a glimpse at what the document we helped create to articulate what a campaign might look like so we could test that with our prospective donors, community leaders to get their ideas, their thoughts and insight. So, yeah.
Thank you, Karen. Hello, everybody. So with the external assessment, this is, for lack of a better word, this is where we get the word on the street. So like Karen was talking about with the interview process, we were able to interview 29 folks. And first I want to say that Carl and Jason did a fabulous job of really putting us in touch with some really, really solid people. And the success of a campaign, one of those key points of success is being able to get the right kind of data. And that's why we did the interviews, and that's why we were testing everything. So through that interview process, questions we asked were, we wanted to identify the familiarity of the project. Just seeing who in the community knows what's going on. They know about this new center. They know what this project's about. Assessing the importance, really finding out, do people think this is important? So really asking those questions like, what does this mean to you? Is this important? Is this important to this community? Perceptions about our case statement, because with everybody we interviewed, they had a chance to see the case statement that Karen just referenced. Assess community engagement and support. So that's where we get to ask everybody, do you believe you would support this? Do you believe others in the community would support this? And when I say support, I mean financial support. Capacity and potential giving. Do you believe that the money we're trying to raise could come out of this community, be it individual gifts or corporate foundation gifts? And key influencers, and that's leadership. Up here. So 15 development benchmarks, strategic plan. With every campaign, want to definitely have a strategic plan, and that's something that we worked on with this. Case statement, which I just talked about. Not going to read every last one of these, but some of the key ones. Efficient record keeping. Definitely want to make sure we keep a record of who's giving, what they're giving for, how their gift is structured, all those little in the weeds kind of things. That's going to be important as we move through this campaign. I already talked about the fundraising plan, prospect development. That's how you're cultivating your prospects. Want to make sure we're building relationships, and that's going to be a recurring theme that you'll see through this presentation. Leadership recruitment, involvement, and fundraising leadership kind of all go together. One of the biggest keys of making sure a campaign is successful is that you've got the right kind of volunteer leadership in place. You can have all the professionals in the world working on this. If the volunteer leadership is not compelled to see this through and involved and engaged in it, it's not going to happen. So that's one of the things that we're really focused on. Key campaign readiness review recommendations. So really want to focus on building donor relationships, which is what I just talked about, making sure people feel good about what's going on and they're up to speed and educated on what this project is and how it's going to impact the community. Communicate with our philanthropic community. Again, this is back to the interviews, seeing who in town is philanthropic. And that's a big deal. Not everybody's interested in giving to causes. So it's really important to identify those folks and build those relationships with those people and just really see what's important to them and build that. This is one of those kind of interesting points where it takes time to build those relationships. So we're not just rushing in, but making sure that we know who we're talking to and we know what's important to them and we're asking for the right things. Formalizing a donor appreciation program. And that's just stewardship, making sure people are thanked properly. It's nothing worse than giving a gift, big or small, and nobody's recognizing it. It makes a difference. Assessment outcomes. Everyone we talk to believe that this center is distinctive and it's important. And that's a huge deal. Strong support for the campaign and its mission. And people believe as long as the mission is followed and folks are properly identified, qualified, cultivated, and so on, this campaign can be a success.
It's one of our school warnings. So.
Okay.
Just give them a pause.
Keep going. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. I feel like I should be doing something. Kinetic recommends so this is the great part, kind of drum roll. Kinetic recommends a campaign goal of $5.55 million in a 3-year timeline. This is based on the quality and input from the interviews. That's what I referenced earlier. As long as we've got the right people to talk to, which we believe we have, and they're giving us accurate and honest feedback, we're going to be able to make a success out of this with a timeline of 36 months. we believe that the leadership for this center, and particularly with Carl and Jason, they're going to be able to handle a high degree of donor centricity. They're going to be able to celebrate philanthropy and make sure that it's embedded in the center, build a strong case for support, and have a high degree of volunteer leadership. And that's at the beginning, that's during, and towards the end. Because one of the things we want to make sure that you're left with after the campaign is over is what happens the day after the campaign. Making sure that these gifts that come in are sustainable, that you keep going, so that you've got a center that you can always be proud of, and that's always going to be something that the students and parents will be proud of.
Sure, thank you. We wanted to share a little bit about the landscape of philanthropy. So we, of course, talked a lot about our conversations with people in this community, in this region that would care about this project. We also want to, of course, consider what does philanthropy look like in the U.S. So the good news is this has been tracked for about 50 years. New data for 2024 will come out next month or in June from Giving USA and Giving Institute. But over $557 billion was given in 2023. And if you look at this pie chart, you'll see that between individuals and bequest, so all individuals, that's about 75% of philanthropy in this country. And that has held true for all 50 years. It has been at least 75% comes from individuals. Foundations at 19% and corporations at 7%. We wanted to share this with you really to tell you that although the individuals we think will be very important in this, we don't think your pie chart at the end of this successful campaign will look like this. We have talked to great corporate partners in the community that have a vested interest and foundations in supporting you all. So we actually see that that part will be a much higher. And there's, of course, a million reasons, businesses in this community wanting to invest in their future employees and the education of kids. This chart doesn't depict this, but education is actually the second largest piece of the pie as well. After religion, education and human resources are tied, or human services. So that's also good news for you. We know people care about investing in the education of our future adults. So attracting financial support, how we will do this, we'll continue to expand the visibility. Of course, this isn't a quiet phase of the campaign. People know that this is happening. So it's really important that we help control those messages and put out good stories of what will happen in this new space, how many more kids will be served, how many new programs we can serve, and how it will impact this community in the future. The volunteer leadership, we've touched on that, but that's really important because we know that's how our networks will be built. That's how we will get in front of potential donors, corporations, and foundations, is through a great volunteer leadership base. And obviously you all have had the courage to take the step to make this plan. So we need to have confidence and we'll work the plan. Some key recommendations, Kevin got the big drum roll. We're recommending your full campaign. We think you can raise this over a 36-month period. We recommend a 5-year pledge period, and that allows people to make the most meaningful gifts that they can. We recommend early on that we will set benchmarks. So we don't want to just have that $5.55 million number hanging out. We usually want at least 2 benchmarks throughout the year so that we can track the success of this campaign and know it's on track. Recruiting a campaign cabinet, that has already begun. There's individuals in this community that have said, I want to help with this, and have already started because of the great connections of Carl and Jason. And then in your final report that you have, there's a chart of giving, and that's where we see the breakdown of gifts for this campaign. Typical campaigns, 60 to 70% is often raised by 20 to 30 individuals, foundations or corporations. So we stay high focused, especially in the beginning, of ensuring we're talking to the right people and taking the time to cultivate those relationships so we can ask for that meaningful gift.
That chart she's referring to is on page 42 of the study booklet. So if you want to take a look at what she's talking about there.
Thank you.
Laying out different giving levels and how many folks you would need to reach that. I'm sure that's fluid, but
yes.
Yeah, page 42 of the actual report.
Additionally, wanted to share, we spent a lot of time with foundation research. So we really surfaced what we were especially excited about was 9 foundations that have a giving history of giving $1 million or more, and we fall into more than one of their categories of funding. So it gives a higher propensity that they would be supportive of this project. Additionally, there's 23 local and regional foundations that had great matches, and that was up to about 6.4 million of giving between those foundations. So we see great potential in that area as well as corporations and individuals.
So that's actually the end of our report. Your full feasibility study report that Dr. Nicely referred to has your case statement in it that we've talked about. It has a list of who participated in the interviews with us, and then sample fundraising policies that will be important for your campaign. And then there's a timeline, what activities would need to be taking place when. And then you'll have some raw data, just the comments that people gave us, assessment. The names won't be associated with those comments. They were confidential interviews, but you'll see some of the responses, so it'll kind of help you understand how we arrived at some of the conclusions. So that's it.
I have one question for you, if you don't mind. So I know that the case statement that you're referring to is on page 51 of the plan. Can you just, it goes on for several pages there. I think it's really well done. Can you talk a little bit about how that tool is used? Why that's important?
Yes, thank you. So that's a very good question. The case statement is really intended to accompany a conversation with a major gift prospect. And that's an individual, a foundation, a corporation, corporate individual. But when we're doing the major gift fundraising, Janelle said this isn't the quiet phase, and that doesn't mean it's a secret because everybody knows about it. But it is that phase of the campaign where we want to ask people face to face. So we want to be very strategic about who we're talking to. We want to make sure we've done our research. We want to make sure we're listening more than we're talking, and have this case statement with us. It's a leave behind document. It's really intended to surface questions so we can continue the conversation and develop the relationship.
We really appreciate all of you being a part of the questions and a part of helping us unearth this process. All of you participated, and I appreciate your time with me too. We're trying to make sure that we're talking to every resource we have on who you know and who we should be talking to. So that's another part of this. So we really appreciate all your support.
My understanding is you all had an opportunity to, I think, interview all the board members individually, and then, of course, all the other folks that you mentioned. So,
Yeah.
I think one of the questions I think it's important to articulate, Carl, is we've got a plan that we've been presented. We feel good about the goal being reasonable and achievable. What next? What do we do with this?
Yeah, it's a great question. So. Right now, we haven't stopped talking to these companies. So as a matter of fact, next week I have 5 days in a row where I'm with a company talking about, and again, we're some of this is softening the ground, making sure they understand exactly where we're going and what we're doing, but getting their temperature on, how they feel about what we're doing, and trying to get feedback as far as what they're willing to do. So we're getting ready to move into, we're still in the quiet phase, but we're getting ready to move into a part where we're going to be asking them for donations. And we already have a few that have come in. And so that's encouraging. They don't want to, some people don't want to wait. They want to be a part of this from the get-go. And so that's very encouraging. So we're excited now that we have the plan. We can map out how much we need to do over each quarter. And that'll help us stay on task, and some that we think will contribute may not, but then there's always some that come kind of out of the woodwork that want to be a part of it once they hear about it. So it's exciting right now, Dr. Nicely, because we can now we feel like we have a plan that we can work.
Thank you. Thank you for the work. We've got a barometer we can kind of gauge how we can move forward and do well.
Again, we want to thank you for the opportunity. We don't always get to deliver good news, and we're very happy to be able to recommend the full amount to you and to deliver that good news to you. It will never be easy. Campaigns are not easy. They have to be very strategic and well thought out and carefully planned. But that you have the opportunity, we're really happy to recommend that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 2.04, request to approve RCPS 2025-26 Perkins Plan. Mr. Jason Sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair, again, and members of the board, Dr. Nicely. The Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act, we call it Perkins 5, is similar to past years, and Roanoke County Public Schools' proposed 25-26 local Perkins plan has been made available on board docs for your perusal. Perkins funds, as you know, augment local effort to supply high-level CTE programs. It's part of our funding that we rely on. It pales in comparison to what the school board generously helps with. A major use of the federal monies is for equipment such as computers, for tech ed classes or heavy equipment and trade and industry classes. The RCPS Perkins plan is locally developed, and a couple of you sit on the General Advisory Committee. Appreciate your input on that. The Perkins plan was approved by the CTE General Advisory Committee at Tuesday's meeting this week, and the next steps in the process is to request your approval. Since the local plan and budget is very lengthy, and if you've had any chance to delve into it, it has many tabs at the bottom, and it's a lengthy Excel spreadsheet. A summary has been provided on board docs as well, so if you look at that, it will reference the different parts of the plan so that you can easily reference what's going on between the two. I appreciate your consideration of the plan with the hopes of it. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to entertain those. But the hope would and plan would be to put it on consent for next week's board meeting.
Good deal. Just to remind everybody, these are federal funds.
Federal funds, yes, that's correct. Yep. And did have a question just recently. Do you anticipate any changes? Ms. Peterson's been helpful in looking at with all the turmoil and what's going on federally. We don't anticipate any changes in the immediate. Of course, down the road, not sure, but for the immediate, we're looking at least level funding.
On board docs, does it have on that last page that you presented us at the meeting the other day, it broke down how much is being sent where? Is that on there? Okay.
That
Yeah,
will
I
be,
think it's-
that is on that summary.
I think that's the best page of that. It just shows you where the money's being used, so.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And things like equipment, but it also provides federal money. We use a good chunk of it for professional development for our teachers, sending students to CTSOs, travel for state and national travel. There's good, and we'll be using a small portion of it for our GoTech labs for the middle schools as well.
Can you tell everybody what a CTSO is?
I'm sorry, CTSO, I use my acronyms. Career and technical student organizations such as Skills USA, which, by the way, is at the Civic Center this weekend, but FBLA, DECA, those student organizations that are co-curricular with our programs, and students compete in those competitions, leadership, skilled competitions, and they succeed at the regional level, they'll go on to state. We can help fund those trips. Also on to nationals, and we every year have students that succeed and go. You recognize them on a regular basis, going to state and national contests.
Can you also, sorry.
I was going to mention Skills USA, but go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask if you would mention a little bit about GoTech.
Sure. So GoTech is a program that is out of the Institute for Advanced Learning and Research out of Danville. That's where it's centered out of. GoTech provides specialized equipment, especially on the manufacturing front, a little bit with the health sciences, But in our tech ed classes at the middle school level, we feel like this equipment's going to really help our labs in those schools get to the next level with manufacturing awareness for our students, which is a really good thing. We have a strong manufacturing program at the high school. We need our middle school students to start looking into that. Equipment on that front might be a CNC programming unit that they can meddle with at the middle school, a virtual welding machine where students actually get to do some welding virtually in a safe environment, but at the middle school level. We haven't had that before. And I, have a strong welding program at Burton. So it's those types of things that this is going to provide. It's a lot of equipment, high dollar equipment, probably $125,000 per lab. And it's being and professional development. Thank you, Dr. Soltis. It provides professional development as well. And that's one of the unique things about the GoTech program is it has the professional development lab where it's staffed with people who are on call for our teachers to call up and get help with maybe a piece of machinery that's gone down that's part of the GoTech, or they want to derive a new lesson plan, they need some help getting a new lesson around a certain area. That staff will be there to help them at a moment's notice. There are 6 labs being put in this iteration of the GoTech funding. The GoTech funding, the GoTech program is being funded by Go Virginia Region 2. That's the proposal going before Go Virginia Region 2. It's over $1 million worth of equipment. Our contribution to that is in kind primarily, with that $8,000 Ms. Clemens mentioned on that sheet in the Perkins plan. We will be contributing $8,000 a year to be part of the GoTech program. So it's really a small portion of cash, if you will, a lot of in kind, and Go Virginia funding is providing the vast majority of the equipment.
And we get 2 labs,
We get
right?
2 labs
So-
out of the 6. The other school divisions in the consortium that we're working with each get 1. So kind of proud of that.
Yeah. Very cool.
One
Yours is
quick-
one.
yeah, one-
Isn't one of them, it's,
So Hidden Valley and Williamsburg.
yeah. that's what I thought.
Those are the 2 with the most active tech ed programs. The plan is, in further iterations of the Go Virginia funding, to put them at all 5 middle schools. So we'll have to go back and work with the schools to reapply for more funding to get more labs put in. But we're very confident that'll happen.
A little bit off topic, but I want to follow up on something you mentioned about middle schools. So currently with our middle schools, we've talked about this before, we send them, there's some kind of, I don't know what you call it, career day, whatever, to go over to
The Career Quest.
Career Quest?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
do we do that once a year?
Yes, it's once a year, and then we do it once a year with 10th graders.
Okay.
There are changes coming to that. I'll just give you all a heads up. The Workforce Development Board, who organizes that Career Quest, and Morgan Romeo is the executive director there. We just had a call with them last week, I believe it was, talking about what needs to happen with the 7th grade Career Quest. The 7th grade Career Quest is a great thing in my mind. We need to reach our students when they're young and help them just understand what's out there. We're not asking them to pick a career, we're asking them to see what's out there. The problem they're running into at the Workforce Development Board is they're having trouble with companies really wanting to invest all that time. It's a lot of time for those companies, 2 full days of company involvement, plus the 2 days for the 10th grade Career Quest. Companies are hedging on the 7th grade. And so we're not giving up on 7th grade. We know that's important. We're brainstorming ways to get 7th graders and their parents possibly to an event in the future. So right now it's just the students and some of the teachers. In the future, I think it could be look a lot different. Wouldn't be during the school day, maybe. We're throwing around some ideas, but
So I'd like to throw out an idea that I think needs to be explored is that we need more of those more days. We've got a mentoring program in some of the high schools that mentor some of our middle school kids. I'd love to see our Burton, as it is now, CTE as it's going to be. Look, we're going to grow this. This should be one of the shining lights. When you go see the star, you ought to go see CTE. This is one of those things that we need to promote in the largest way we possibly can. And for me, sometimes I think if you start in the high school, you started too late. I would love to see us once a quarter, it's not a quarter now, we're on semesters, let's say twice a semester, have the ability for these kids to be exposed in some way to, and I hate that it's Burton right now because it's going to be so nice, but let's say CT, our new ones here, I'd love to have them exposed to that, because I think that is real to a lot of our kids that's not real sitting in classrooms all day and hearing about the CTE facility. But if you had, and so when I was talking about mentoring, if some of our kids that are at Burton would have a mentoring day where a middle schooler comes and follows Johnny along for the day in his classes at Burton, or some other, and then the next time in the semester they do something different, they get exposed to this in many different ways. And I think about, well, I'm not going to go there, but anyway, I think about the kids that may be lost in the way that they want to move through high school or move through the future, even if they're in high school, to move on. I just think that you might hit on something that they get excited about. And if we've waited to high school, sometimes I think they think, well, good Lord, I've got a year left. What am I going to do in a year? But if we expose them in middle school and they get that exposure in middle school, and then they get exposed again and they kind of like it, and maybe by freshman or sophomore they say, well, I'm going to go back to this and explore, what can I do with welding? What can I do with auto mechanic? What can I do with whatever, criminal justice or whatever that is? But the more we expose them, doesn't mean they have to go in that direction, but they know it's there. And of course, this was back in the dark ages when I went to school. I didn't know anything about Burton, and I hope our kids, and I know we do a much better job of that now, but I just think the exposure of going and seeing our kids do the work, some type of mentoring program for a day, or let them follow them the whole time, job shadow. I know that those kids in middle school can't, there's laws and different things that, preclude them from doing a lot of the work, but just being exposed to it may help them. So I'd like to see us do that in a more quantitative way in middle school, 7th, 8th grade, and if there's thoughts or ways to do that. And I know that's disruptive to learning, so, at the schools, but if there's a way to incorporate that some way, somehow, I think it could be.
Like the thought about you don't know what you don't know,
right,
is so true in terms of economic development, career choices, and truly what kids to be opportunity ready, which means they need to know what the options are. And I think you're right. I mean, just for kids to see what the options are for their parents and families, that's a huge piece of that, especially when considering some of these sort of CTE-oriented careers. Getting the parents to see is a huge piece of it. And I think something that's also been effective, it's not exactly what you're talking about, but I applaud all the efforts, all these industry tours that we're doing. Some of you guys have had a chance to do that, where the teachers and the counselors are out there, seeing these things too, just being exposed to the different businesses that are out there. I think all those efforts, which can be expanded, absolutely, but all those things are very important.
Yeah.
Well, Tim, I think you hit a good point. And one thing that we do is the summer camps.
Yes.
For middle school.
That's correct.
And it might be something, I know there's only limited programs there, but maybe that's something that we can expand on.
I'd like to see every program do them. Right now, I think we have 6. I was just looking at it the other day. I think we have 6 programs doing that. But that would be, that's a great way.
That could get some interest.
Absolutely.
Early on.
And those usually sell out. Our summer camps usually do real well.
You give a plug for that real quick. Describe what that is.
Sure. So we have summer camps usually early in the summer. I think the first one is June 2nd through whatever that week is, the June 2nd week. And then there's some of those programs run 2 weeks of camps, so it might be that June 2nd week and then the June 9th week, if I'm not mistaken. But they're available to Roanoke County students to register for. They're 4 days a week, 3 hours each morning, except for, I believe our manufacturing camp is, I think that's an all-day camp. So those are available to our students, and a great way for them to kind of get into those labs at Burton right now. And of course, we'll carry that to the new center. But
How have we went about choosing what subjects or what are we incentivizing teachers? Is it something that the teachers are doing? Hey, I want to do this, or is it something that we have? Because I know it's like auto mechanics, robotics,
mechatronics, robotics. We have a culinary. I think Mass Comm does one. There's a couple more.
I mean, if it's something that maybe we need to incentivize teachers to kind of expand on and maybe build this to a bigger.
I think that's not a bad idea, because right now it really is up to the teacher that runs that program to want to do a summer camp.
All right.
So it hasn't been a mandate, absolutely not that way. But if we could
Maybe come up with a
maybe work-
cost analysis
Yeah.
of what it would cost us to take care of it. I mean, what do you guys think? I mean,
Yeah,
he's
absolutely.
gonna have to put work into it. I don't want to be telling him to do it myself.
Well, anything that moves, I'd like to double the size of CTE. I mean, I know that's pie in the sky and what we had to go through to get what we got, but I mean, I think anything we can do is see that's the way of the future, right? That's what companies are looking at. So anything we can do, I'm all for looking at how we can attract more kids in, and if they're weighing the options of getting into a trade versus going to college, what have we always told our kids? Of course, y'all may not have kids grown yet, but we all taught you got to go to college. You got to go to college. You got to get that college done. I wish I'd have made my kids learn a trade, because if they're out of a job, they can always do a trade. And so, I applaud the idea.
I'd like to see some sort of presentation on how we can incentivize teachers and maybe expand that program a little bit, reach out a little further than what we're doing right now.
That's a great idea. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What grade do our middle schoolers already do a tour of Burton? Is that 7th grade?
8th grade.
8th grade.
8th grade is as they are able to apply for classes at Burton. It'll be during their 8th grade year, believe it or not. I mean, it's young when they get to start vying for spots in the specialty centers and most of our programs. Some of our health sciences students have to wait till they're 16. But yeah, the majority of our programs, they can start applying in 8th grade. So they go over and tour Burton, and that is an effective way, as effective and as efficient as we can do it to make sure all students get at least a glimpse of what goes on in those programs. Is it ideal? What Mr. Greenway's talking about kind of maybe a couple hour job shadow or upper level student shadow, if you will, as they're in the program. That would give students a better eye, but it is far more complex too. So time to.
Yeah, but the idea of exposing 7th
Yes.
graders to that versus waiting until 8th grade when they're having to sign up for decide to apply.
Right.
Kind of planting those seeds a little earlier is something to really consider.
We're the idea, but in that respect, but I'd love for you to bring us back 3 or 4 ideas of how we can expose those kids a little younger to the idea. The more we expose them, I feel like the more opportunities they're going to see that they can have.
So there's no question the new facility will help.
Yeah.
It will.
When they show up there and see that.
Not speaking out of turn, but when I was the middle school principal at Glenver, I took 6th graders over there, had them sign up for a program that they wanted to shadow, and they did shadow. Because what I saw was by the time they were in 8th grade, they'd say, "Hey, I want to go to auto mechanics or whatever," but they weren't getting accepted because they hadn't gotten the good grades, they hadn't had the good attendance. So the earlier we can expose them, the better. The 8th grade quick go through is great to expose them to all the programs, but them having an opportunity to see it earlier is way better, and I like your mentoring idea.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're adding that to the consent agenda, right? That has to be added to the consent agenda.
For
The Perkins plan.
Yes, yes.
You know, do the kids know what they wanna do?
Looks like they
today?
figured it
I'm
out.
still
Yes.
trying to figure it out.
Yeah, but who knows? But the earlier,
I
you're right,
just think,
the
yeah,
earlier we
just-
can expose them.
I mean,
And
I
parental
think,
involvement.
I'd love to
I felt
break
bad. I was
some
like,
of
there's
these
nothing left. I was looking down here.
I mean, I think they just screw these kids
No.
financially. Yeah.
Because when they go to online learning and everything else.
Yeah, and then they'll reduce the rate.
Item 2.05, RCPS accepted for Future of High Schools Network and request to accept honoraria for participation in the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching, Mr. Mike Riley and Ms. Susan Peterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the board, we're excited to bring this opportunity to the board. We've been talking a little bit about this, but we want to kind of let you know not only what it is, but kind of how we got here and kind of the direction we'll be going with this. So back in November, we had, and do we have control of this here?
Oh, no.
Back in November of this year, we were contacted by the Carnegie Foundation. They had reached out across the country. They're looking at ways to kind of reimagine what high school should look like. We know that high school works for some, like you said, Mr. Greenway. We've got others who, just for whatever reason, college isn't their path. If you're familiar with Carnegie, they're the ones who came up with the Carnegie unit. That's kind of the traditional units or graduation credits that students need. So they're looking to innovate at the high school level in terms of what high school should look like. So they reached out to some partners across the country that they work with and said, what are some schools that are doing some unique and innovative things? And Roanoke County was actually one of the schools that got brought up, got mentioned. And they reached out to us, and there were about 100 schools across the entire country, school systems that they reached out to and said, we'd be interested in talking to you, and we'd like you to apply to be a part of what they refer to as the Future of High School Network. So we did that. We went ahead and applied. In December, a team of folks from Roanoke County Public Schools actually had an interview with the Carnegie Foundation, and really what they were interested in is the opportunity-ready work we've been doing, especially at the high schools. Many of you had an opportunity, or at least were invited and had a chance to come see some of the defenses that our students did around their portfolios and the work we're doing there. So we were able to explain kind of the history of that and the fact that we do it at all levels. Elementary schools have student-led conferences around those same ideas. Middle schools do the same thing. And that at our high school level, not only is it just a small pocket of students that get to do this, but our vision was all students. And of course, you guys know this year, all high schools participated. Next year, we're actually going to have some dedicated days to do this. So we were able to share that with Carnegie. And then, it's going too fast. Oh, I think Chuck and I are both doing it. We found out in February that we were one of 20, and this is kind of a big deal. If you think about the entire country, we were one of 20 divisions across the country that the Carnegie Foundation invited to be a member of this network. So they would like Roanoke County Schools to partner with 20 other divisions, to share what we're doing, to partner with other divisions, to imagine what high school can be for our students. One nice thing that they do provide as membership in the network includes a $100,000 award to help us with this work. It'll help fund travel, professional development, things like that. So over the next 2 years, educators from our system, we're going to be able to help chart a path for improved outcomes for students, not only in Roanoke County, which has kind of always been our focus, but it's exciting that hopefully we'll be able to kind of inform the conversation and help move the narrative forward across the country in terms of what schools can do. Their focus, just so you're aware of kind of their goals, is they want a broader set of goals for what students should know and be able to do, and it really pairs well with what we do. they understand that content knowledge is still important. We want to make sure that students know the content well, but there's also those skills that they need. Those of you that were able to come and watch some of those presentations saw those students talk about those skills that they're developing in Roanoke County schools. And the Carnegie Foundation realizes it's not just enough to have that content knowledge. You've also got to have the skills in our evolving society and our evolving economy to thrive. And whether it's in CTE, even those students have to have the ability to communicate, collaborate, and critically think. So we want to make sure that that's incorporated in everything we do. They also want rigorous, engaging learning experiences across all subject matters that are deeply rooted in the science of learning. And then finally, meaningful and actionable signaling systems. Basically, how do you measure it? Schools are struggling with how you measure that, and that's one of the unique things that we've really started to delve into is our measurement system are those portfolio defenses, where they actually get up and present to a panel their accomplishments, their mastery of those C's, and the panel gives them real feedback in those areas. So I think because of all the work we've already done and hope to do, Carnegie was very intrigued. So as a result, they've asked us to partner with them. Go ahead, Chuck, it's not. And again, our opportunity portfolio defense is going to be the centerpiece of what we're going to be modeling and refining over the next 2 years. So it's nothing new that we're doing. It's just now we're going to get to partner with others, and we're going to get to share some of the things that we're learning and doing with our students with other schools across the country. So that brings us to the grant process, because we do have money attached to this. So Ms. Peterson's going to talk a little bit about what the board needs to do to go ahead and appropriate those funds.
Yep. So just to remind you, the grant process is that when you adopt the original budget, you adopt all the grants that are presented, the recurring grants. Special grants are adopted every year. We do set aside during the budget a special project account as kind of a buffer. This is used to true up recurring grants as we get changes from BDOE. It is also used for these unbudgeted awards, kind of like this Carnegie one. When we do have an unbudgeted grant or award, we have to bring it to you for approval of the award itself. And then we will look at the special projects account, and if there is funds in there, and there is at this time, we will ask for an appropriation from that special projects. We will not have to go to the Board of Supervisors since we have enough in here. We'll just go.
You're trying. For some reason, it's not.
Line and check.
There we go.
And so what we would ask is that at the next board meeting, we would request approval of the grant and appropriation of $100,000 from the 2024-2025 grant fund special project. We do expect for the payment to come in. The first payment will be in the current year, and the next payment will be in next year. And so that just kind of lays that out for you.
I think our meeting's actually on the 10th next week, so just.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm going to say one thing to actually bring back together the previous report as well as what you're saying. I was going to give a plug to the Skills USA, which is the state competition happening this Saturday down at the Berglund Center in the exhibition space. And I bring that to your attention now because I really encourage you to go see this. These are all of our kids who are in the trades and in these different CTE programs down there. They're not just demonstrating that kind of stuff. It's in terms of what they can do with a hammer or a welder or whatever. It's all of those things that we're talking about in terms of their ability to collaborate with each other in a group project, to communicate, to problem solve, think critically. I remember going to and seeing the building trades one. It's a competition really, and I think the way this works is they have a team of 3 to 4 kids in the building trades, for example. I was using that one example. And they're given a project or something they have to build and construct within a time frame. They've got to take leadership and deciding how they're going to tackle this problem and who's going to do what role and that kind of stuff, and they have to execute it. And I just love that because it's one way. I mean, showing that you're an opportunity ready graduate and you have communication skills and collaboration skills and you can problem solve through critical thinking. It's it's true in AP chemistry class. It's true in a buildings trade class. And so I hope more and more of our students will actually, graduate with this new diploma seal, the cords that we're putting out there. And again, I know some of you guys saw the defenses, but this is just exciting stuff, and it's exciting to see our school division and that our efforts being recognized at a national level through an effort like this, and frankly getting some funds to support it. So thank you guys.
Any questions? All right.
Thank
Well
you.
done.
Great.
Thank you.
Oh, if I didn't say, this Saturday, Berglund Center Exhibition Hall starts about 7:30 in the morning, but the morning time is the way time to go. So if you have any time Saturday morning, encourage folks to get down and see this. It's good stuff, isn't it?
It is. 7:30 is awful early.
Oh, I know. You can come in. You can drop in anytime. So
Is
you
it
can come
this
at 10 o'clock.
Saturday?
This Saturday, right? But you can drop in later in the morning too. So.
Item 2.06, 2024-2025 Employee Bonus Options for Consideration, Ms. Susan Peterson.
You can just pull up the PDF, and I'll just walk through it. If you can go to the next page. Sorry, we're having a little technical difficulty. All right, so I brought to your attention throughout the budgeting process that the General Assembly did put forth. Both the Senate and House had different versions. They came to an agreement as the General Assembly to provide the school divisions within the current year a bonus. The bonus is actually calculated based on $1,000 per FTE in the SOQ modeling system. And that's how much the school division would receive. This bonus, I have on here the second bullet point indicating that it would be paid no later than June 1. We have some additional clarification as this is moving through the budgeting process, that the money would come to the school division by June 1, and we would pay our employee by July 1st, so by June 30th. So it would be in the current fiscal year, but it doesn't have to be before June 1st. Like I said, the bonus is based off of $1,000 for the FTE in the SOQ funding model, but it is up to the school division as to how they want to divvy up the funds. The school division is not required to match. So the school division can take the entire amount and just divide it by who they want to provide it to. They don't have to provide the same amount. It's really up to the school division to determine how they want to provide this bonus in order to maximize the use of the state funds and promote retention among the instructional and support positions. Can you go to the next page? Thank you. So this chart just shows how I have kind of calculated if we did give a gross $1,000 bonus. So the top line shows the subsidy, how much the general fund would have to provide. The dark blue is the gross payment to the employee, and the green number is the net payment, the cash that the employee would see after all taxes are taken out. So if we provided the full $1,000, we would have to supplement about $900,000, and the employee would only see $646 out of that. And then you could see I've shown what it would be. The supplement would be $362,000 if we gave them a $775 gross, $500 net bonus. It'd be $59,000 if we pulled that down to $650 and $419 net, or if we did not supplement it at all and didn't touch any general fund money, it would be approximately $625 gross payment and $403 net payment to the employee. And so it will be up to the school board to determine. We do have a lot of expenses that we're facing right now. We have looked at it, and we can't afford to do the full $1,000, or we could take that money and use it for other needs and leave it at the zero subsidy. So that would really be up to the school board. Can you go to the next page? So initially we were thinking we would identify all active employees as of April and then make the payment on May 31st. But with the changing in the timing, it will probably be more anyone who is an active employee as of probably May 31st, and then we could pay the bonus as of June 15th. That's going to be better timing because we are more likely than not going to have to take this to the Board of Supervisors because the total revenue for this is $1.5 million. I'll have to do the math, but I think that's going to be high enough that it'll increase our ordinance. And we would probably have to bring it to you guys for approval on May 28th, and then ask the county for a first and final approval of an ordinance on June 10th, which would be before we would cut the check. So that's a really tight timing. The on a budget kind of side of things, the reconvene session ended yesterday, and so now the governor has 30 days to take a look at what happened throughout the special session, and then I'm hoping, early May, we would have final budget numbers.
Yes. So with $907,000, you said come out of the general fund. So I guess my concern, like you said, we have some needs. Now, I've always fought for higher pay and benefits for our teachers. Everybody knows that. So I don't want anybody to take this wrong when I say this, but you're talking about a essentially a $240 difference, $243 difference going from zero to $907,000 out of our budget. And to the employee, that again, $243, well, that's about 2 months worth of insurance increases with what we just had to raise our insurance. And we've done everything we can to try to keep that lower, but unfortunately we see where we're at. And I know that our reserves are riding kind of thin, right? So for me, the difference in $200 versus $600 and then trying to keep this health insurance in check, I think we have more important priorities. I don't know what you guys think, but I feel like that I would love to give them the 646 net. However, I feel like if we don't get a hold of some other issues, it's going to hurt them in the long run. But I want everybody to understand that and kind of make that clear for anybody that's listening that I personally am not trying to keep someone from getting a bigger bonus. I wish we could give them a bigger raise because that affects them long-term in VRS. But looking at it from a perspective of $200 now, or your insurance is going to go up $2,000 next year because of this insurance reserve that we really don't have a whole lot of control over, obviously, with the amount of claims and the increased costs in medical care. I think we've done a good job at trying to reduce those costs, but for me personally, I feel like it'd be irresponsible to vote for us to use $907,000 out of our budget when we know that we're hurting in another area pretty bad that will directly affect most of the employees.
Madam Chair, I agree with Mr. Hudson. I'd like to know, first off, did we include the 907 in our budget that we sent over to? I remember this number, and I can't remember. We were talking about leaving it, taking it out. Did we leave that in for the budget?
This is for fiscal year 25, which is the current year. That is not what we took over to the county.
So it was
For the county,
maybe I'm mixing that up with another 907.
We're talking about next year.
Okay.
I've talked about this is flip-flop between the current year and future year, and so it's been in both iterations of the budget. But the final iteration has this coming out of the current year and not in the next year. So it was in one of the iterations for next year.
All right, and don't shoot me for bringing this idea kind of with Mr. Hudson's thought in mind, because I know we just went through what we had to set all these rates and all that stuff for. But if we did what Mr. Hudson said, and I kind of agree, I mean, the $200, $250, whatever would be nice to give the extra to the teachers. But what if we took $500,000 and put in our reserves and took the other $400,000 to reduce the rates we have to charge our folks? I don't know how much of a difference that would make, but to help reduce the rates of what we're going to have to charge for insurance this coming year? Or does it just make sense to put all 907?
I would probably recommend putting the 907 into the reserves.
I get it, but if we could reduce that rate, that's meaningful to our teachers. That's the only thing I'm kind of bouncing back and forth on. that, if we take that 400,000, if we take half and half, whatever, and we put half in for our reducing these rates where, and I can't remember those rates, there's 200 of them almost when you go from, employee, child and all that. But my point is, if we could knock that down another, I don't know, $15 or $20 a month or whatever, again, it's not huge, but any piece of that helps. Look, when we get to June 25th, hopefully we're back to whole and everything's fine with our reserves. Not saying that something can't go wrong, but my gosh, if we continue this path of we think we got to hold everything hostage, when we know we're going to be whole at July 1, I think if we throw another half of this in there, and I'd like to see us throwing half of this at reducing our rates to our staff and to teachers and for insurance rates. And let me even throw that one step further before y'all kill me with that idea, is I would like to see higher earning staff not participate in that. I'm sorry to say that, y'all can all shoot me, not participate in that half of that money to reduce the rates to our staff and our teachers and so forth. I know I'm getting complicated, but we can do that. Look, they can put men on the moon, women on the moon. We can do this.
The only thing I wanted to point out is this is one-time money. This is not recurring money. Our premiums are set for recurring income into the health insurance fund. And so you're kind of marrying up different types of funding sources. We can look at how we could look at the premiums, but again, looking at one-time money versus recurring money.
I get it, but we don't know what one time's going to happen next year. We didn't know what one time was going to happen the year before. I know I'm going to get a ton of pushback on this, but I think it's best for our staff and our folks that are barely making it to pay these premiums. Again, Mr. Hudson, I love the idea. I'm just trying to think of a combination of the best ways to help our folks. But putting that money in reserves, I'd love to reduce these rates to our younger folks that are coming into the profession that are single parent staff members, whatever the case is that they need the help, and I'm sorry to say it this way, but I think you guys can absorb some of that where a lot of our staff and different folks maybe can't. But I'd love to see us do that.
Can you clarify, are these funds that would be used this year to go towards the claims that are still, or are we talking about putting in reserves for next year? I think that's some confusion there.
Yeah, just to clarify, so as you all know, in terms of our health insurance reserve balance, we've been keeping track every couple of weeks in terms of what the claim bills have come in. The latest report was a little better news. We're still looking at a negative projected balance by June, and we can't. You all understand we can't be negative, right? We're going to have to, if it winds up, being drained, we have to put money in there. We can't just be negative, and thinking we're going to start all over. So, but it was down to a negative $156,660 projection. We're getting new projection numbers on Tuesday. I know we've seen similar numbers several weeks ago that it went up. So it's like watching the stock market, right, in terms of the up and down. So just for clarifying for everybody, whatever that number winds up being is going to play into our ability to do anything. And clarify one thing, Ms. Peterson, in terms of the General Assembly and the governor's budget. I know the General Assembly did their work yesterday. Is there something that still could happen in terms of the governor's action that would still even put the state money in jeopardy? So this is still not a done deal, is it?
Correct.
Just to make that clear for everybody.
Every reason we can think of that it won't work, I get. But if we go negative June 1, we've got to get to July 1 and we're back to whole.
But we have to cover whatever that negative is
I
going
get
to be.
it.
So that's where the funds
But
are
we
going to
borrow it for a month and we're whole July 1. This is not rocket science.
Well, that's not how it works. Any money you get at the year end does not just roll back into next year's operating budget. that goes into the whole ordinance in terms of major and minor capital.
Well, that was going to be my question. So if we were to put this money over and we had a positive amount at the end of the year in the insurance reserves, does that carry over to next year?
Yes.
Yes, the health
Which
insurance
one-
fund keeps it.
Which in
keeps
turn
it
would
low.
help the rates because
Yes.
a portion of
the
the
future.
rates being calculated is based off of how much money you have in the reserves, correct?
Right, it would certainly
And-
help, shore up for next year's rates when you redo
Well, that's-
that.
that's
I'm
my-
still worried, to be honest with you, I'm still worried about I mean, I think it's good that we're projecting to get to the 4 million for next year, but if our claims continue the way they are, that's not gonna be enough. I mean, not trying to be Debbie Downer here, I just want to make sure everybody has the information.
Well, and that's the biggest piece of this is I want everybody to understand that, the $200 difference in the bonus could mean a whole lot of impact, more than the $200 impact on your insurance next year if we can get this under control. Because the more we have in the insurance reserve, the more we're going to be able to keep the insurance
That's
rates
right.
at a static rate instead of elevating to the amount that we had to this year.
Right.
But before we get there, we're gonna have to
We
pay
gotta-
whatever the negative is,
Which
so that's,
hopefully wouldn't go over the
For a
100.
month.
right.
Well, can I offer maybe a consideration? So the health insurance fund, that we have been told to keep that reserve level at 4 million. We're looking to have negative balance by the end of this year. So if we put the 907,000 into it, we're not going to be at the 4 million, but we'll be positive, right? And just a reminder, the 907, that is payroll lapse of the current year operating budget. It is one-time money. And so I hear what you're saying about recalculating the premiums, but maybe what we can do, because the 4 million that we've budgeted to shore it up for next year is not going to occur on July 1. The only thing that's going to occur on July 1 is the transfer of about 2 million that we recommended to put in there. The rest of the money is going to come from payroll premiums from the employee and the employer. And so that's going to take all year long. So it may take until June 30th to get to that 4 million. And so my recommendation would be, let us move forward in this manner, leave the premiums as they are. And then if we hit the 4 million earlier and we can return some of that premium back to our employees, let's calculate that and return it back to our employees next year.
Well, also our funding for the marathon, once that takes effect later in the year, would be put towards insurance reserves.
We've already calculated that.
Okay, so that's already.
That's already in there.
Okay.
But definitely, it's an ongoing future savings though, too, to your point.
Right, yeah, I mean, and that's the big thing. I think, a lot of folks were upset with that, but I don't think they understood the big picture of how it's going to save them in the long run.
Yeah.
I do think you've got a great point there, Mr. Hudson. It doesn't help them with VRS. It doesn't help our employees that way. And when it's 35.5% taxed, I mean, $322,000 of that 907 would go to the government right off the bat. So I'd love to be able to give as big a bonus as possible, but not subsidizing it and going with the 625 makes the most sense to me.
Yeah.
And we don't need an answer
That's what I
today.
was gonna
I can take your recommendations back as a majority and continue to work out the numbers. And when we get the final governor's budget, I can bring back a more firm plan.
Works for me.
Thank you.
Just glad Jim didn't hit me. I could feel the gasp everywhere.
Seven, presentation of the special education annual plan, Dr. Beth Harmon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, Chair, not men, and members of the board. In your documents is the annual presentation of the special education plan for the Part B flow-through grant application. The purpose of this document is to provide assurances that our division certifies throughout the grant award period of the 25-26 year that will meet the federal IDEA and Virginia regulations governing special education programs for children with disabilities. We are further certifying that the division has current local policies and procedures for the provision of special education and related services, which ensure compliance of IDEA, federal implementing regulations, and the Virginia Board of Education's regulations. Additionally, you've been provided documentation regarding our fiscal responsibilities of maintenance of effort, proportionate set aside for parentally placed students in private schools, and our projected spending for the IDEA Part B Sections 611 and 619 grant funds. You have the comprehensive document, and we're going to ask for consent at the next school board meeting. Do you have questions? Thank you.
Item 2.08, recommended policy changes, Dr. Jamie Soltis.
So I gave everybody 3 sets of handouts. One was reviewed with no changes, one was minor changes, and then one was new policies or significant updates. So Chuck's trying to help me out.
Yep. We got a microphone cable.
Caught. So as you guys know, by code, the majority of policies have to be reviewed every 5 years. And so in doing the policy audit, we found policies that needed to be updated. Additionally, the VSBA came out with some updates, February policy updates. So we were cross-referencing what we were doing with the changes they were making as well. So this first sheet of review, and all the policies are in board document for you guys to see, and I also have them here. I have them all here if you want to actually see the changes that were made, but for the review with no changes, basically staff reviewed it based off of whose area's responsibility it was. And if there were no changes other than just changing the review date, those are these policies. So without having to show you policies we already have and you already know about, that's that list, but I wanted to give it to you. All right. The next list I'd look at are the minor changes. So these are policies that staff reviewed, that it ranged from anything from a legal update to adding review and revised dates, because it still just had like active. And so making sure that we're keeping up with when it was last reviewed, when it was last revised. One of the policies that was up for review is policy 3.16, which is the bullying and harassment policy, which we do have some minor changes to, but based on lots of questions we've been getting lately, I would like permission to present that policy along with the admin reg at the next board meeting to kind of do an informational session with Dr. Hughes on how we actually handle these things. If you guys are good with that. So going through these, there's nothing really major in here. Like, for example, policy 2.10, student representatives to the school board. It just made sure, the language made sure that a student couldn't count towards the quorum, that they had to adhere to any of the rules established by you guys while fulfilling their role. So these are just mainly minor changes, and I wanted to point out a couple more. Requirements for school bus drivers, like this is the kind of thing we had to change.
How's that?
5.28, I'm sorry. But we added the word public to a lot of these because it had Roanoke County Schools, and we were just trying to get them all formatted the same where it say Roanoke County Public Schools. But 5.28, bus drivers have reached the age of 18 by the first day of school instead of on the first day of school. So I think Mr. Bradshaw helped us with that. The employee extended work plan, 5.48, just wanted to point this one out. And you guys that helped work through this, Mr. Bradshaw, you can help me if you want, but updated section G to clarify the medical rate for retirees, I need my glasses, sorry, participating in EWIP. So basically, you guys at an earlier board meeting decided to contribute $3,000 instead of $2,500 towards the EWIP for the retirees, and it just spells it out that retirees participating in EWIP will receive medical insurance rates equal to that of an active employee during their first year, and then the school board will contribute $3,000 towards the RCPS annual group medical insurance benefit for employees while they're participating in years 2 through 5. So we made that change. Mr. Bradshaw, he made a lot of changes. He made the change here where it says personnel policy goals. Originally, they said reviewed annually, and then he got excited when he saw that that was one that could be reviewed every 5 years, so he wanted to make sure he changed that policy to align with that. Dr. Hughes in 6.46, the school counseling program, just wanted to make sure that this was a policy that still used outdated terminology, called it guidance, and so we made sure we put counselor instead of guidance throughout that policy. Here's one, 7.08 was dropouts. So back in the day, when I was first starting teaching, back in when the stone tablets were here, we used to have visiting teachers, and now we have social workers, so it's just changing the terminology to the position we actually have. And other than that, there really are just nothing major. The two that I wanted to point out were the 3.16 bullying and the 3.16 AR, and to have permission to do a presentation at the next board meeting on those policies.
Just to clarify one thing, Mr. Bradshaw.
Sorry.
And I should already know this, I apologize, but for 5.48, the EWIP policy, where we're saying retirees participating in EWIP will receive medical insurance rates equal to that of active employees during their first year, is that a change, or is that something we already do?
That's what we already do.
That's what I want to clarify that. Okay.
Otherwise,
Otherwise,
say 5 years, but
okay.
it's actually 2 through 5.
Okay. Otherwise, there's a budget implication. That's what I make sure we're right.
And I was just trying to put enough notes to where it
I
would
gotcha.
make sense without having to, you guys have to read the whole policy. So now for the new and updated ones, and I'll go through each one of these. And I'm happy to, if anybody has any questions on the minor changes, I'm happy to go into more detail as well. All right, so the first one, policy 3.32, and I will bring this up. It's funny, I can't see far with these on, I can't see close with them off. So this is the strike-through underlined version. And Ms. Newcomb did a really good job of reading through this policy really thoroughly and just making changes to make it more readable and make more sense to the everyday person. So basically, she included this statement. She said, participants and responsible adults involved in school board approved extracurricular activities are expected to demonstrate the same level of responsibility and behavior at practice and competitions as is expected in the classroom. The school board further encourages the development and promotion of sportsmanship, ethics, and integrity in all phases of the educational process and in all segments in the community, including administrators, participants, adult supervisors, parents, fans, spirit groups, and support and booster clubs. I think we've seen, even in the most recent VHSL playoffs, some behaviors that are outlandish, and we just are putting it in here to make sure, and she made it sound better, that's not tolerable and it violates policy.
You've seen me hollering at the refs at basketball. Man, yeah. Oh, yeah.
She saw you and
I saw
wanted to create a
it.
policy.
It said school boarding. I got it.
Sorry. All right, 3.39, the distribution of materials. This is another policy that we actually worked on with PAC as well to get the language the way we wanted it. So the biggest change in this one is the policy was rewritten to match current practices and to provide clarity. It added that for nonprofit community organizations, for-profit endeavors, private or religious organizations that are approved by the executive director of administration, which is Ms. Newcomb, for posting in a central location for students to select on a voluntary basis, still have to meet the following 3 criteria. So they basically have to have, hold on a second. They have to, give me a second. They have to have the statement that these materials and the activity described herein are not sponsored or endorsed by the Roanoke County Public School Board, because we don't want something that's been approved from a third party, it to look like you're the ones endorsing it, because it's voluntary for them to pick it up. Commercial establishment whose primary source of revenue is the sale of intoxicants may not be advertised in school publications nor be eligible for communications to be placed in central location. And approval will not be given for materials that are likely to cause a substantial disruption or interference with school activities, endorse or encourage the use of alcohol, tobacco, electronic cigarettes, nicotine vapor products, or illegal substances, or are obviously obscene or pornographic or defamatory, or endorse or encourage any violation of our student conduct code. So we just wanted to basically lay out what are the standards that will not be approved by Ms. Newcomb from those parties. The next one is a simple change, but an important change. So policy 3.41 is the teacher removal of students from class. We added in the line that before a student can be removed from class, interventions by the teacher and/or administrators must have been attempted and failed to end the student's disruptive behavior. And that's not saying like if Mr. Hudson is disruptive in my class, I can't send him to the office. This is me removing him from my class completely. Like he's no longer enrolled in my class. So that's what that's about. 4.22 is a it's just a telephone policy, and the original policy was talking about beepers and text message minutes, and not you had to pay any minutes that you went over your minutes, and it was we had to bring that in line with modern world. Personnel policy goals, and I already talked about this in the other one, but basically that fell along with Mr. Bradshaw wanting it to be in the 5-year code requirement, so he didn't have to do it every year. 5.05 credit for experience on the salary scale. I just want to show you guys this one. So basically, Mr. Bradshaw wanted to make this policy much more clear on what you have to do to get experience to be placed on whatever level in your job. So he made it very specific, and you guys can read this. But basically, a maximum of 2 years of active military service is allowed. Non-credited partial years of experience may be accrued for placement on the salary scale. And then the big thing he has down here is the timeline of when they have to turn stuff in to get that verification to be placed on the scale. Mr. Bradshaw, anything else you want to add to that?
This is our practice right now. It's what we have been doing all along. We just clarified it to make it easier so everybody would understand.
And that's what we saw in a lot of these, is we were just aligning them to what we're currently doing. All right, Mr. Bradshaw, I'm going to throw you on the spot here. So the PTO sick leave guaranteed policy, you guys knew that during the budget discussion there was some concern because we weren't sure how much money we were going to have to pay out at the end. So in thinking about that, Mr. Bradshaw did a really nice job of going back and reflecting on that policy and coming up with a solution that would let us be more certain in future years. And you want to tell them how you did it?
Yeah, absolutely. And we mentioned this when we were passing this originally, or you all passed it, was that we wanted to adjust it as needed. You know, it was going to be fluid. And one of the big things that we needed to look at was what the cost was going to be. Well, if we wait until June to actually pay it out, we're right at the end of that fiscal year cycle. So if we can do it in the middle of the year, instead of guessing what that cost is going to be, we could do it in January where we know it's a definite cost. It gives us 6 months basically to either worry about having to supplement that money or personnel lapse or whatever we need to do to make up for that. So we felt like moving the date to the January timeframe compared to the June timeframe makes a lot more sense budgetarily. So, and it allows all our employees to get the money at the same time, because you know we have some employees that their last day is end of May, some are then at the end of June. So it does a one payout time instead of a multiple.
So this is a brand new, that's why the whole policy is underlined. A brand new policy that we're requesting to put in is leave without pay. So, Mr. Bradshaw, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've had a lot of challenging situations with all kinds of staff, be it Todd's group or be it teachers that are just choosing to not come to work and take leave without pay. So some divisions around us had a leave without pay policy, as did the VSBA, so we kind of took those, and Mr. Bradshaw kind of made a policy that basically lays out when you can take leave without pay, when you should and when you shouldn't. I'm just going to be flat honest. We've had some employees who, when it's going to be a tough day and they know the assignment's going to be tough work, maybe not show up for work because they know it. They just take the leave without pay. So the thing is, they can take leave without pay is not to exceed 2 days per year and may be granted by employee's immediate supervisor. Requests for more than 2 days per year must be submitted to Mr. Bradshaw prior for approval. And then obviously if there's extenuating circumstances and things like that, that gives Jim the ability to work with them. But it also makes them have to report it before they're approved and just say, I'm not coming in tomorrow. Any questions on that one? I know this is exciting. Policy 6.08, research studies. We didn't want poor Ken to have to do this, so the first sentence in this policy used to say the superintendent is encouraged to search out and to initiate research into courses of study and other means by which the division might enhance the educational program for the student. And looking at that, we didn't really feel like, Mr. Riley and I didn't really feel like that was a needed sentence in there, because all staff should be doing that. And any experimental or innovative program that's not consistent with accreditation standards or allowed by the Board of Education, we would have to submit for approval prior to implementing that. So, not that we don't think you would really go out and search for great stuff.
We do that anyway.
We do that anyway. All right. 6.32 remedial instruction program. Basically, this whole policy was just rewritten for clarity. Mr. Riley, do you have anything you want to add to that? I mean, basically, you struck it out and rewrote it to make it simpler and easier to understand.
That's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it in a nutshell. 6.33, here's one that we're actually recommending to delete. In working with the VSBA and Ben, the remediation recovery program, all the information that was in that policy was actually in other policies. So there was no use in having another policy. And one of the things the VSBA is doing right now is trying to go through their policy manual, and if it's not a required, needed policy, looking at deleting it. Retaking SOLs, I think we've run into some challenges here just because the state changes the rules a lot. Am I right, Mr. Williams?
Yes, sir. And this General Assembly session, they're changing the rules some more.
Right. So at the end of the day, we rewrote this policy to be more general so that we didn't have to come back and present you with a new policy every time they decided on a whim they were going to change something. All right. Tutoring. So when I first saw this, I was like, I can't believe we're recommending to delete this. But then I actually read the policy. And the policy for this was basically saying kids can't get credit for just Mr. Nicely or whoever tutoring them. Well, that's already articulated in other policies, like how to earn it, how you can award a credit. So when I first read it, I was thinking I was going to read, you can't get paid for tutoring your own kids or something like that, but that's not what it was. So
Which is another policy. We already have that.
Right.
But that's not what this is.
That's not what that one is, right. The next few are simple changes, but just school service providers, if they're going to delete personal information, if this says unless a student is under the age of 18, a parent can consent to the maintenance of it, but if the student's over 18, they have to consent to the maintenance of their information. School attendance areas and student transfers, just in looking at the changes in the code, obviously if there was an attempted homicide on a child in a school, we would allow that kid to go to a different school within the division. It was just not listed. Student transportation on the bus, Ms. Newcomb really worked hard on this policy to eliminate redundancies in the policy and to just basically clarify behavior and what can happen if you're not behaving on a school bus. So you can see she had all these markouts and then just tried to make it more clear. Nothing different than what our actual practice is, just trying to make the policy more readable. 7.20, the admission of non-public students for part-time enrollment. Roanoke County Schools does not allow part-time enrollment. However, with a change in the code, there has to be an exception if a homeschool student is a member in a division of JROTC, which we don't have right now, but in case we did, we would have to allow that student to be part-time enrolled. Public complaints and accommodations, at the advice of our attorney, he wanted to remove the statement that you see there that any parent, guardian, or legal guardian of a pupil attending Roanoke County Public School is aggrieved by the action of the school board, may within 30 days after such action petition the local circuit court to review the information. Our attorney basically said that that's not needed in there. 8.19, I'm going to let Jessica talk about. This is her recording of meetings. She actually changed it. The policy title used to be audio recording of meetings, but now we know there's all kinds of different ways people video and record video meetings. So Jess, do you just kind of want to go over in general?
There are only two areas in the law in which recordings of meetings are allowed, and that's an IEP meeting or a discipline meeting or eligibility meeting for special education. So if you can scroll down a little bit.
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
That's all right. So what we did was added, not only in meetings, but in conversations, because so many people are having just day-to-day conversations and recording conversations, and it really creates a lack of trust and respect and professionalism. So we've changed that to meetings and conversations in general. And if a parent does want to record an allowable meeting, then they let us know in advance, and we will record that also, and it'll go in the student's file.
Thank you. Back to communicable infectious diseases. Charlene and Tammy both updated that one to the latest guidelines, and they added the statement that coaches, officials, and appropriate healthcare providers must follow the National Federation of State High School Association or state local guidelines on the time until returning to competition. So as a former wrestling coach, I can talk about this one. Lots of time kids have skin infections and ringworm, whatever, and you have to wait until the time that you've been to see the doctor that it gets treated before you're allowed to participate.
If the local guidelines are different from the National Federation guidelines?
Then we would follow the local guidelines. But most of them are the same. Like, for example, like the wrestling, the VHSL guidelines for returning for whatever are the exact same as the National Federation of High School. They kind of align with each other. Staff leaves and absences. So, Jim, you want to talk about this one? You moved when and how RCPS pays holiday pay to the top instead of at the end. That was just rearranging the policy.
Correct, just rearranging.
And you changed payment for the holidays will occur to the first and last day worked from the first and the last day employed.
Correct.
Just another thing. And then you added the cross-reference to leave without pay.
Correct.
All right. I know this is not exactly stimulating. I'm sorry.
I would say we could read this, and if we have questions,
That's fine too.
we could. I don't
That's
know.
fine too.
I'm not sure why we're reading every page.
I was just trying to help you.
No, and I look. You've done a great job, and very. but
I was just saying for anybody who might not have read.
Your phonics skills are wonderful.
But
My phonics skills are wonderful.
but that was, oh, keep going. Then. Whatever. I mean, if y'all want to hear,
So basically, on 6.28 AR, we added other licensed people who are allowed to certify that a student can be put on homebound. For example, a physician's assistant, an advanced practice registered nurse. We also added that homebound services are temporary and require proper medical certification. And we also, this is in state code, the teacher is still the one responsible for grading the assignments in a homebound thing. The homebound teacher is basically a facilitator who provides information and provides support as they could. So clarified that. The next one, Mr. Williams updated the definition of gifted to match the latest definition of gifted, correct?
Yeah, no. You stay seated.
You stay seated. I know that you'll be even worse than me.
I'd love to talk about it.
Yeah, no, you're good. Summer school, we updated the high school information in the summer school policy to match what we actually do with high school, summer school. Technology use guidelines, we basically just put in there rules that we enforce anyway, that you shouldn't, users should not attempt to bypass any form of security. And that also, if staff wants to use a digital resource, that it has to go through an approval process. And I can remember when I was here the first time and, technology was really booming, it was kind of the wild, wild west of, hey, that's awesome, I want to use that in my classroom. Hey, that's awesome, I want to use that in my classroom. And poor Jeff and them were trying to support 9,000 different platforms. All right, and then use of email, just letting you guys know that you might get a phishing email. I saw one on Ms. Clemens' phone the other day at the General Advisory Committee, and I was like, don't click that one, because I had gotten the same email, and I knew if we both got it that it was probably spam, and it was one of Jeff's phishing attacks about healthcare or something. I can't remember.
HRA. The HRA.
Just training. Another change is student transcripts. So this was a change for Virginia FOIA, and Sean and I dealt with this at the beginning of the year. We are not allowed to charge for student transcripts because that is considered a student record, which falls under FOIA. So we had to removal of fee from student transcripts. And then lastly, because this is the last one I'm going to talk about, We aligned the volunteer policy with the substitute policy. You have to be 18 years old to volunteer in a middle or an elementary school, and you have to be 21 years old to volunteer at a high school. So that those were all aligned, and so you couldn't be 18 years old volunteering at the high school. Any other questions?
Well, in all seriousness, the one thing that I see that we might want to check on, and we can just adjust it if it's an issue or not, but 7.20, which talks about JROTC, I don't suspect, or I should say it this way. I
That's the Navy.
suspect that our NNDC program probably does not equate to this, just because that's something we pay for versus the military paying for, but we'll just double check that just to make sure.
And I had double checked that already with
Okay.
Jason. So I think we're good. Thank you.
He had everything in here.
You want anything else?
Any questions?
I'm gonna be glad one day when I'm not the policy guy.
What was it?
All right, if there's nothing else,
Well, I guess do I have to make a recommendation that these get moved to consent
okay,
for the next meeting? Sorry,
Edie would appreciate that.
that would be my recommendation.
Okay, thank you. All right, if there's nothing else, we'll move to close. Mr. Linden, will you read us into closed?
Yes, Madam Chair, I move that the Roanoke County School Board convene in closed session for the following: to discuss the investigation of a student matter pursuant to the scholastic record exemption at 2.2-3711A2 of the Code of Virginia, and for consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members pertaining to actual or probable litigation, and consultation with legal counsel regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel pursuant to 2.2-3711A7 of the Code of Virginia.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.